Yeah, let's do it, fight fans. Let's do it. What's crack-a-lackin', fight fans? It is the homie, Mainman Mademan here. Y'all know how I get down. We talking boxing, man. What up to the fam? And what up to everyone in Mainman Mademan's boxing form? Much love, much love. Hey, look, man, so the thing is this. So we are getting closer and closer with every passing day, fight fans. Next thing you know it, September the 13th, gonna be right here. We are heading towards this monumental and historic showdown between pound for pound number one, Terence Crawford, and as well as top pound for pound fighter and cash cow of the sport of boxing, Canelo Alverez. Not to mention with a very proven track record over time, Canelo Alverez has been in there with the who's who of the sport of boxing. So y'all know over here on the channel, fight fans, and much love to y'all, we have been doing a thorough look at this particular matchup, where this passing week we did 3 videos on Terence Crawford and some of the tools that he can use to nullify Canelo Alvarez's offense. Just check the channel for some of those videos, and salute to everyone that went on to those videos and hit that thumbs up. This particular coming week, we will be doing Canelo Alvarez's tools this coming week. So in this particular video right here, I want to speak about some of the more cerebral things that both of these fighters do that affects their opponent. You know what I mean? We all know when it comes to the sport of boxing, we all know it's physical, but most of the game is mental. A fighter can be skilled all crazy. They can have the fastest jab, the fastest feet, the best ring IQ. But if your mental is shot, if you're going in there and your head is messed up, or if you're in your head too much in that ring and you're not coming up with the proper solutions, well, guess what? You can lose that fight just because your mental is all messed up, fight fans. And in a lot of cases, I've seen plenty of fights where there's a fighter that's lesser skilled than the guy that's across the ring from him, but the lesser skilled guy wins because his mental game was much more tighter. You know what I mean? Going into the fight, the way they approached the fight, even not being affected by the bright lights and the crowds and the moment and so on and so forth, still figuring out their strategic game plan and working their game plan. You know what I mean? Not being taken out of character, a tight mental game. You know what I'm saying? And only just doing things in the ring that can frustrate their opponent, get their opponent out of their game. You know what I mean? Mental game. And that is a huge part of the sport of boxing. And so let's talk about some of the things that these two fighters do that affects their opponents mentally, fight fans, in the ring, of course. Let's start with Canelo Alverez. So Canelo Alverez, the thing that I see that I think gives a lot of his opponents issues mentally, as wild as this might sound, as basic as this might sound, but his punching power. The thing I notice about Canelo Alvarez, everyone that he's been in the ring with, especially the smaller guys like Cotto, guys like Liam Smith, guys like Amir Khan, guys like Jamel Charlo, well, when he's in there with these guys, his punching power is so thudding, where these dudes keep their punches, they hold their punches back. They get in there, their punch output dips, their punch output drops. They get in there, they get into a jabbing and moving posture. They don't want to really engage much with Canelo Alvarez. They don't start taking risks no more. And it's like they feel some of the power punches of Canelo, even if he dropping them or ain't dropping them, but they feel the power punches of Canelo, and it makes them keep their hands at bay. It's one of those examples where, your power can just be so good, that's just enough to humble your opponent. And I've seen Canelo Alvarez do this now to numerous dudes. Caleb Plant, grinded him to a halt. Caleb Plant in the second half of that fight was damn near afraid to swing. You know what I mean? That's just the way it goes. Like I said, outside of just plucking from a jab, these dudes feel that power, and they like, oh no, I'm not going to open up with so much, because if I open up too much, he's going to mess around and knock me out. Hell, there's even a lot of Canelo Alvarez fans out there that believe that the reason why his knockouts then went poof, pow, be gone since the Caleb Plant fight is mainly because everyone is fighting so defensive and they're trying to stay away from Canelo's power, where he's not getting a chance to knock these dudes out. I would slightly disagree with that, fight fans. But at the end of the day, bro, his power, his punching power is making fighters change. It's making fighters become uncharacteristic. It's making fighters abandon their game plans. You know what I'm saying? Not so much of him taunting, not so much of him doing some other. It's more so his punching power. Canelo Alvarez is the kind of fighter where he's looking to beat you up. Not even if he doesn't stop you. A lot of Canelo's opponents, even though he may not stop them, he beats them up. He's beating up the arms. He's beating up the shoulders. He's hitting anything that he can hit. And he knows by the second half of a fight, if I keep hitting you in your arms and shoulders, well, it's going to be that much more harder for you to get a fast, zippy punch out. You know what I'm saying? Or even want to lift your hands up, period, in the second half of the fight. You know what I mean? Or if I keep beating your arms and shoulders, and eventually you're going to have to drop that guard. You ain't going to want to hold those arms up but for so long. And Canelo can just sneak some good power shots in there. So his power just beats you up. Anybody that makes it to that final bell with Canelo, trust and believe, they beat up. They beat up, you know what I mean? I remember watching the Billy Joe Saunders fight, man. And Billy Joe Saunders, who was already kind of in a boxing posture, staying away from Canelo, jabbing and moving. But he started to have some minor successes. And soon as he started to have these successes, boom, out of nowhere, Canelo Alvarez breaks his orbital bone. And Billy Joe Saunders quits on his stool, you know what I'm saying? And it was like, I remember covering that fight that night. I was like in shock, like what the hell happened here? I thought Billy Joe Saunders was coming on for a minute. But then eventually the punching power of Canelo Alvarez just beat him up so much where he couldn't continue to go on. And like I said, up until that point, all Billy Joe Saunders was mainly doing was just really moving and doing a lot of moving and jabbing. Not a lot of combination punching, you know what I'm saying? It keeps people from throwing, people don't throw combinations at Canelo Alvarez. Hell, William Scar went in there and made it a track meet. Why? Because he did not want to feel the punching power of Canelo Alvarez. So that to me is a cerebral thing. I know that y'all may look at that and say, well, man, that's a physical thing. That's a punch. No, but the power, anything that to me that makes a fighter, once again, go into their head in the middle of that fight, don't make the proper adjustments, just kind of get into that same 1-2 step posture, that means something up here is going wrong too. Not just something, physically, but something up here. They can't get around the power. They can't figure out in their head what to do to get around his power. And so I think to me, he's done it so much at this point where I consider it cerebral, you know what I'm saying? Real spill. So I look at the punching power with Canelo Alvarez and I see it, bro. They don't want to get countered by him. None of that stuff, man. His body attack, you know what I'm saying? Like, they don't want to get touched by him so much, so they get to moving, and they just get to throwing nothing but mostly jabs. So that's interesting. So let's do my main man, Bud Crawford, man. And so I meant to have this on up here while I was talking. Let's do my main man, Bud Crawford. You know what I'm saying? Now, Bud Crawford, to me, he got a lot of cerebral things that he kind of does in that ring, but the one thing that I think that stands out to me the most is the fact that Bud Crawford has the power of adaptation, meaning that he adapts to his opponent. Whatever game plan that said opponent is bringing to Bud Crawford, he adapts to that game plan and finds that way to win, finds holes in that game and finds way to win. So I would say we can honestly call it the ability to adjust, but I just honestly would just sum it up with one word, and that's adaptation, the ability to adapt. And this is the reason why, in my opinion, why Terence Crawford's victories always look different. See, like I said before, the same way that he beat Sean Porter is not the same way that he beat, say, Earl Spence. The way he beat Kavaliauskas is not the same way that he beat Israel Madrimov. The way that he beat Victor Postul is not the same way that he beat Yorkis Gamboa. You see what I'm saying, fight fans? It's always a different thing, because what Crawford seemingly does, well, we got this saying with Bud Crawford, he downloads, process, and execute. But as he's downloading information, getting his ranges down, getting his measurements down, he's also peeping your style and what you're bringing to him. So he can know exactly what tools to use to get through this said fight. And this is why the other day I was telling everybody, Bud Crawford is not that super, slick kind of boxer kind of guy like he used to be back in the day. He's more of a fighter nowadays, and he gets in there and he sees what you're doing in those early rounds, and eventually he knows when to turn it on and exactly when to turn it off. He'll know if he's going to look to try to clip you between punches. He'll know if he's going to fight this fight as a counter puncher. He'll know if he's going to have to take this fight slow. He'll know if he's going to have to take this fight fast. He'll know if he got to grapple with you for a little bit to smother some of your work. Like, He'll take down this information in the first early rounds, which does seem to be a bit interesting because we know Canelo Alvarez is a slow starter as well. So that can definitely be a bit interesting right there, man. But Bud Crawford got to download, process, and execute. And why? Because he takes that information and he uses it to adapt to whatever that you are doing. That's why Bud Crawford's fights sometimes may not look as pretty as you want them to look or as slick as you want them to look. He's got to go through a little bit of trial and error first in some cases before he figures out exactly what that sweet spot is. But with Bud Crawford, given that he has so much layers to his game, he can fight so many different kinds of fights. It makes his adaptation much more easier to do. I mean, this is the reason, fight fan. This is one of the biggest secrets to Bud Crawford's success. He studies his opponents in those early rounds. He gets that timing down. He gets your rhythm down. And we know Canelo likes to fight on the rhythm. And I honestly think he's going to look at Canelo with this punching power. And like we said early on in one of our earlier videos, I think he's going to try to attempt to smother a lot of what Canelo Alvarez wants to do, especially early on in this fight. If Canelo can't start to get up and land those hard shots on his opponents, he will have to be forced to try to do something else. And I do remember in the Bivol situation, when plan A wasn't working, there wasn't much of a plan B. You know what I mean? See, Canelo Alvarez has been getting by so long, so well on his punching power and that plan A that he's been doing, conserving his stamina in those early rounds and just using his power to affect you more than anything. And he's been relying on that so long, and it's been working. Don't get me wrong. It's worked against the Smith brothers. It's worked against Avni Yildirim. It worked against Billy Joe Saunders. It worked against Kovalev. You know what I mean? It's been worked against these guys so much where he hasn't been needing to really adjust much lately. And I don't know what that part of Canelo's game is looking like nowadays, because once again, everyone, it's the same 1-2 step with Canelo, and it works. Only person that didn't work on was a highly skilled fighter in Dimitri Bivol. But also Dimitri Bivol was big enough and thick enough to absorb a lot of those power shots that Canelo Alvarez likes to throw. So the question is, given that when Canelo Alvarez has been in there with smaller fighters, once again, this Liam Smith, Miguel Cotto, Amir Khan, the smaller guys, Jamel Charlo, all of these guys, well, it's hard enough for 68-pounders to get in there and deal with his power. How is it's definitely seeming real tough for a lot of the smaller guys to deal with his power. And they get resorting once again to moving and jabbing. But the difference between all of them is that Terence Crawford has tools that they just don't use. Once again, going back to his wrestling ability. Terence Crawford has the ability to say, no, I'm not going to retreat like everyone else. I got a tool that I can use to adjust to something that you like to do. You know what I'm saying? And that's what's going to make this fight so smoking, fight fans. The adjustment ability of Terence Bud Crawford, the power punching of Canelo Alvarez, which game plan is going to survive? You know what I mean? The best way to put out a fire, fight fans, is to smother it. Ain't that right? So, dog, like, which one of these game plans is going to be cracking? Do you bet on the punching power of Canelo Alvarez or the adaptation and the adaptability, if you will, of Terence Bud Crawford? Smoking ass fight, man. Smoking ass fight. I love it, man. Let me know down in the comment section which one that you would like to bet on, fight fans. And let me know if I'm on the money with this one right here. The punching power of Canelo, the adapting ability of Terence Bud Crawford, it gets no better than this, fight fans. So much love to y'all. We're going to keep this series rolling. Once again, out there to everyone, be expecting the Canelo Alvarez tools to be laid out this week. And yes, we're going to be doing several live streams leading up into this fight. Thumbs up on the way out if you didn't hit it on the way in. Share. Rock the bells. We get up real soon on the live stream. Real spill. To the next video, man. Peace out.
Got a real one in here now. You got a real one in here. Y'all got a real one in here now.
I respect it. Yeah, I don't believe it. 3 times undisputed